Hello everybody, Nigel here with you now. Welcome back to the channel, and here we are now with part 11 of the build of this Dambuster Lancaster from Airfix in 1/72 scale. And today we're going to look at the elevators. If you remember in part 10 I talked about adding the strips like we have on these border model ones here for the 32nd scale kit. So there's the fabric strips that are put on and doped and everything, and the Lancaster kit from Airfix comes incorrectly with metal elevators. They should be fabric. So what I said I wanted to do was add some strip. So I went and, if you remember, I said I'd ordered some strip, and here it is. It's 0.25 by 0.5, so it's 10 thou by 20 thou. You need to be careful because I don't know if you can see in here, but you can see there, look. They call it 10 by 20 thou, but they vary in size. You can see there's 3 different widths there. So be a little bit careful because it's going to look a bit clumsy if you're not careful. So there we go, that's the initial bit there. So we've got the strips wrapped round, and I've trimmed the backs off, and obviously it's too coarse, it needs sanding down, but and then we'll give it a thick coat of primer so everything sort of blends in, and we're after that kind of fabric look effect rather than the metal effect. So you can see under here, you can see this is how it comes normally. I filled in, there's a sink mark there, but I've filled in the panel lines and everything, because obviously being fabric there aren't any. Once this is done, you'll see in a minute why I've gone to the edges. We'll remove the fabric trim from the trim tabs, and then we'll actually scribe the trim tab back in, and on the top we'll put a piece on, or just leave it like it is, whatever, I don't know. But basically this is how I've started. So what we've done, we come along with strips of material, and we've glued them on, and then set them with a square, marked out the pencil lines first, 4mm apart, and then what we're going to do is just fold them over. So what I'm going to do now is take some Tamiya extra thin, and I'm just going to put some daubs of Tamiya extra thin here. Okay, just get some on like that, and then we can literally push this onto the bench and roll it over just like so. Okay, and you can see that most of them, those that are in the grooves, obviously don't go over because they're not in contact with anything. You can see that what we can do here is just add a bit more cement into these. They will slightly start to spring back. Some may even snap off. Having said that, I haven't had that happen yet. So there we go. Right, so now comes the fun bit. What we're going to do, start from the bottom, and the reason I've got them overhanging on the back, the reason I've gone all the way to the back, is so that I can line up the rear end, and that means I know I've got them at least roughly square. Okay, they don't need to be absolutely 100% perfect, but it's nice to get them as good as we can. So that one's gone down. Make sure it's pulled back nice and taut so it's not baggy around this radius, and then we can just brush some cement into there, and that's that one done. This next one is obviously in the hinge, so it's not going to have a a radius over the leading edge. But what we can do here is just, with that one, we could just come in with a drop of cement in there, just like that. I'm not really worried about glue gripping around my fingers and stuff, because as I said, we're going to give this a nice thick coat of primer, sand it down, and we're going to make these sort of like these. Instead of being positive ridges of plastic sheet, what we're going to do is turn them into sort of raised bumps. So we're not going to go over the top. A lot of kit manufacturers go way over the top with their fabric effects on elevators and stuff. It's way over the top. We need to do this fairly subtle. Border model have got this, or not wings really, have got this off to a T. It's lovely because the fabric was very, very tight. You didn't get all this sort of, quite often they have great big peaks and troughs in them. So again, we can fold this one over, just like so. Get it lined up on the trailing edge. Drop of cement. Let's give it a little nudge down. There we go, that's gone down. Then we can grab our rule and just sort of make sure it's straight. Just shove it about a bit, get it straight. This is the underside. We can just brush that cement in there like that, and just keep going, doing the same thing all the way along. We could do 2 at a time this time. So get that one lined up, get that one lined up. There we go. drop in there, drop in there, push it down, job done. And there we are. So we can come around here. There we go. Okay, so that's how I've done this, and this is stage one. And then what we're going to do is let this dry thoroughly. When I say thoroughly, I mean leave it for a good sort of 2 or 3 hours at least. Probably best to leave it overnight. And then we can start to trim them and sand them and stuff. You really don't want to do it too early, because you can imagine if you start sanding and then they start coming off or moving around or whatever. You want them nice and solid. I wouldn't recommend using the quick setting either, because it can be quite hot and sometimes all your plastic strip will just snap off when you try and fold it over. So there we go. I'm going to carry on with this, do exactly the same on all of them. And then we'll go from there. Okay, see you in a minute. Hello guys, right. So, it's been a long time. I know I filmed the first part of part 11 about 2 months ago, so it's been a long time since I've worked on this, but here we are. I've rescribed those joints there and there, so that's all good. When I left you, I had actually put the strip onto the elevators. I then sanded it back, and then I've gone over with some Mr. Surfacer just to blend it all in. So now we have fabric elevators. So they're going to go on like that. The actual trim tab part there, it goes on the bottom. Okay, so this one's going to go into there, and then I can't remember how these went in now. It's been so long ago. There we go. That's how it goes. So that's just going to sit there, and then this one the same. That one's going to go in like that. Okay, so that's our elevators. I need to do a bit of clean up in there. We've got lots of primer and stuff going on. So yeah, we'll get those out and give them a clean up in a minute. But there we go, that's our elevators on. I also remember I told you I was going to build up one of the props. If you remember, we completely changed the props. So we've got a 1.5mm brass rod in there, and that's going to go back into the old hub of the prop. Remember, we put that inside, and then I'm able to turn that prop. Yes, it's got a slight run out in it. I'll sort that out. Where's that slight run out? It's there, isn't it? So if I grab a pair of pliers, so I can see the run out is there. So what I want to do is bend this shaft up only a touch. I think I probably made it worse. Never mind, we can sort that when we actually put the propellers in and they get a proper home. But I hope you'll agree that doing it this way and having this to work on rather than having the propellers attached at this point is going to be a lot easier. So we can see that, yes, we've got a bit of run out, but we can see that the actual engine, the cells, all match up perfectly with the spinner. So that's all good. And I've checked all four, and all four are lovely. So that's really pleasing. So now what we can do is get on and fit the bits that you've been longing for me to do, which is all these little intakes and exhausts and everything, and these flaps in the bottom as well. Remember, we left all those off so that we could get our sanding sticks and we could come in and sort of blend and sand and not worry about knocking anything off. So now we're all done, everything's filled, everything's sanded, no seams, no joins, same underneath, same around the intakes, all done good. Now we can start putting some greeblies on. So I'm going to get the instructions, get some bits off, and start gluing them on. Okay, so when we look at the instructions, if we look at the little air intakes first, you can see on the outboard engines we have F1 on the right hand side, starboard side, F4 on the port side, and then we get to the other outboard engine. You can see here we have the same F1, F4. So if we concentrate on the outboard engines first and look at the starboard side only, that'll be F1, which is these two here. So we'll cut them off of the sprue like so. Okay, and then just clean up the fronts to get rid of the sprue gate. We'll do this, we'll work on one at a time, and then we know where we're going. I'm just going to take a sponge, just soften that hard edge that we've just put on there through sanding, just to make it look a bit prettier. Here we go. So there is an ejector pin mark on the back of there. Now I'm not sure if it's raised or recessed. I'm just getting a radius blade in there. It feels like it is recessed, so that's okay. We're not just going to assume this one's recessed because that one's recessed, but it is. So we can take our extra thin, let's get that sprue out of the way. Take our extra thin, get it open, and we'll come to the right hand side of the engine, starboard side, plonk that in there, and it's a gorgeous little fit. And then we'll just give it a tap of cement underneath. That will capillary in. That's that one in. And we'll do the same on this side. Very nice, beautiful fit. Don't worry too much about gaps and stuff, because remember, this is all going to be painted black, and when it's black the gaps won't show. Okay, so you could go around with Mr. Surfacer and get them all blended in beautifully. So I'll do the same now with the F4s, and then I'll come back and we'll look at the inboard engines. Alright, so again on the inboard engines it's the same thing again. F2 on the left, F3 on the right. So if we deal with the right hand side first, we'll take the F3s off, clean them up, get them glued on. We'll just see how they fit. So I'll just keep the camera on for a second while I do these, or at least one of them. Remember guys, this video series is all about newbies and how you can do some simple little changes to the model just to make it easier for you to build. Like leaving these off till now rather than putting them on and then having them all in the way when you're trying to clean up seams. So these were the F3s, weren't they? Yep, F3s, and F3s go on the right. So you can see there's a perfect reason for leaving the others on there, because I was talking away and I completely forgot what I was doing. So, and the same will happen to you. Somebody will come in the room and ask you a question about something. Have you done this? Have you done that? Did you see this? Did you go there? And basically you will forget what you were doing. So it's always best to just, with stuff like this, work on one at a time. Okay, so there's the F3 going in there, and then there's the other F3 going in there. They just fall into position, guys. They're absolutely lovely. As I've said so many times, this I believe, it's the best 1/72 scale Lancaster on the planet, and possibly, for a kit to build, fun versus price versus size, it's possibly the best of all, really. 1/44 ones obviously are much smaller, but they're not that nice in their accuracy. The 1/48, you've got the Tammy and the HK. Both of those have got their issues, as we know. The Hasegawa 1/72 scale has some inaccuracies. The Revell, it's a bargain, but there's no dihedral, or very little dihedral, and it's it's not a good design. I don't like the way the wings go on that kit. They just glue straight onto the side of the fuselage here. As you can imagine, you've got all that just trying to pull the Bombay apart all the time, and it does. So okay, so that's got a bit of a gap around that one. So I'll just put some cement in there and then just give it a little nudge back just to fill that gap. And drop more. I'm going to drop another one in here, like so. Get it straightened up. and then drop something in there. They don't fit quite so well on the inboard as they did on the outboard, so never mind. As I say, once it's all painted black, you won't see any little gaps there. If you want to, go around with some Mr. Surfacer, and then, you know, on a cotton bud, remove the excess. But I don't really think it's necessary. Saying that, I may do it because there is quite a big gap around that one. We'll have a look. I'll do it off camera anyway, because you've seen all that before. So we've got those done, so we can cross those off. I don't remember if I've been crossing bits off as we've been building, have I? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. So we'll cross those off. We'll cross those off. Now we can look at the exhaust shrouds. Now I should have painted the inside of them. Yes, I did. Right, so on the outboard engines, the right is F20 and the left is F19, and it's the same on the other engines, so they're the same for both. So F20 is the right hand side outboard. So we'll take two of these. No, we'll take one of these. Okay. Now, one thing that Lancaster kits get wrong, they often have the shrouds with these what they're called now. I cannot remember what they're called. They're called shrouds, aren't they? They have them up against the engine, and they should actually be away. They don't actually touch the engine. They're on brackets. The border model is the only one that has it correct, I think. But we shall see what these are like. To be honest, in 1/72 scale, the gap would be so small it would hardly be noticeable. So just remove that little sprue nib on there. So this one, they're showing you here they're going to go. So the angle faces forward. So when you look at that, you've got a straight side and an angled side. So that faces forward. This one's number 20, so it's going on the outside of an outboard engine, or the right side of an outboard engine. So it's going to go there. So how's that going to fit? I'm not quite sure. I guess you push it right back. No. It doesn't have any positive location at all. It's just... if you pull it forward, it rides out. So I guess you pull it forward until it stops. But then you've got to cut out of the back. I better have a look at some references a minute. Okay, I'm just looking at the instructions here, and they're showing you these going on. You've got these tiny little air intakes here at the front, and you can see they're just on the edge of them. And it looks like the back corner is just in line with that rivet at the top. So I hope I haven't mixed these two up. I think this is 20. I think it would be quite obvious if it doesn't fit. Okay, so if I line that back up with that rivet, as you can see there, you've got just at the back, there's a rivet. If I line it up with that, what I'm going to do is just remove some paint from here. In fact, I'll use a sponge. You can see that little air inlet there. I just want to check that I have actually got 20. It certainly looks that way. I think it'd be quite obvious if you mixed them up, wouldn't it? Would they not fit? Yeah, it's quite obvious. So as long as you've only got two off at a time, you're okay. Right, so it's going to sit down below those rivets. In fact, if I sand a bit more off of there, you'll see the rivets and see what I'm talking about. Waffling on about rivets and stuff, and they're all covered in black paint, so you can't even see them. Right, so that's going to go in there like that. I do believe that's the wrong one, isn't it? Or did I have it the wrong way round? That feels good. Right, so we've got the top in line with the rivets and we've got the back in line with that second rivet forward. So I'm going to take a drop of extra thin and just touch it underneath at the back and let that run in. Okay, get that top edge level with those rivets or it's going to look odd. And then once we've got it tacked in place, it's a quick touch of the extra thin, let it go in, don't do anything else. I'm not going to put any on the top because I don't want to destroy that rivet detail. Then we should be able to do the same on this side. Just want to take away this paint so I get a good strong bond. Just remember we're gluing the bottom only. So that's going to go on like that. Back end flush with that second rivet forward. Parallel with those rivets along its length. So bring the model over. I'm sure you can't see a thing I'm doing, I'm sorry. Just touch it. Get it all nicely in position. And then there we go. So that's one done. So I'm going to get the rest done exactly the same and then I'll come back. You don't want to sit me watch me put all these on, do you? I'm sure you can handle it yourselves. We'll just have a quick look on the inboard engines. They're telling you to make 2 of each. So just 1920 on the outboard engines and 17 and 18 on the inboard. Okay, they're all on. As you can see, all the shrouds are on. Just make sure you do one at a time, get the right numbers, and you'll have no issues whatsoever. I did end up running some glue across the top just to seal them in. So now we've got these vents on the bottom, these flaps, and where are they? F9. They're all F9. So you could just take them all off the tree, get them all cleaned up, and they literally just drop into place. There's like a little shelf in there that they sit on. So if I could push that one in. Hang on, have I got that the wrong way round? No, it's the right way round. They just literally slide into place. There you go, just knock it back a touch and that's in. And then we can just take a drop of extra thin on the rear corner and that will capillary around, do its thing, and that'll be that held in place. Just give it a little tap if you want to, just to make sure. You can see we've got 2 of them done there, and that's how they look when they're in. Now you can see why I did all this black painting up front. Right, see you in a bit. Right, pushing forward, just looking at the fin and rudder assembly. You can see we've got all the parts here, they're handed. We've got B.III going with B2 and A9 going with A10. C33 is a common part, that's the counterbalance weights. You can see on here, I'm going to cover this because, as I say, this is for newbies. We have some very large sprue gates, so make sure when you cut them off, cut well away from the part. Otherwise you run the risk of ripping a chunk of plastic out of your part. And especially on this trailing edge of this rudder here, you really want to be careful because that will just tear a great big chunk out. And then once you've got it off, we can come in and just trim that off. Trim that one off. Same with this one. And the same with this one. And then just lightly, with a nice firm stick, just lightly sand over until the sprue nib's gone. Okay, it just rolls over the edge. It does, obviously it needs to get the plastic into the tool. That's why it's like it. And then down here we have a sprue gate and a seam line. And then here we have a big seam line in the middle. Just get rid of that. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it's good practice to do so. And the same here on the rudder. Again, we're just going to sand that flat and then replace basically sand the matching radius into the sprue gate. And here on the trailing edge, we're just going to go until there's nothing there, and then just sand the front face and the rear face until there's nothing left. You don't have to do any repairs or anything. We've also got a mould seam down there, we've got a mould seam down here. Okay, we're just going to check the fit, check it all goes together okay, and it's a nice snug fit, so that's good. We can push it together and it'll keep itself together when we put the cement in. Then we've got the actual balance weights here are going to go into this slot, so I'm just going to put some extra thin into there, just so I can put this in place, and it'll just kind of nip it there. It'll just grip it. And then the tweezers, just pull it central. We have to be careful with this part because it's going to be easily break-offable, if that's a word. You can see the glue is dried out, so just drop more extra thin in there and then quickly get this in. There we go. And there we are, that's that in there. Okay, make sure it's horizontal. I didn't check this one for horizontal actually. It's not too bad. The peg is literally just to hold it up while it dries. So, but the horizontal bit can always be sorted after it's dried because it's that blue tack plastic, the soft plastic. Okay. There we go. Right. And then we're just going to put these together. Just have them sit like that, and then drop a cement in there. Drop a cement in there. As I say, put a drop of cement in there and then get away from it. Don't start manipulating it and brushing it around and that, because you'll damage the surface. But just do that. You can see it's gone together and the cement is capillaried into the gap, so be careful with touching it too heavily because the glue will come out on your fingers and spoil the surface. There we go. You can see we got a gap at the bottom here, but it's contacting there, so we'll just put a bit of cement in there. Otherwise, remember my Hurricane build, how many times did I snap the rudder off? This is the trouble, they have no location. Okay, so we've got to have another closed peg. Put that on there and let it dry. Just have a look at this one now, it's started to go. So yeah, we've got a little bit of contact there, so we'll put some cement in and then we can put some in here and it'll capillary up into that gap. That'll give us a nice strong joint. That's what we want. So we can just leave that, whoops, just leave that to dry. I'm just going to check, we've got cement in those counterbalance weights. And there we are. Right. What's next? We're going to have to fit those on. We're onto the actual bomb now. This is going to be the interesting bit. Now, if we're going to close this up, is the back of the fairing open? I think Airfix have chosen to have the back of the fairing open. I personally believe it would be open, but I don't know. I figure that if the back of it was closed, then the negative air pressure behind it would want to pull it open and it would be a lot of drag. I don't know. I would have thought they would have left it open so that air could rush through. Yeah, so don't forget, if you're having a stand, then you can make the holes or the slot or whatever there. If you are fitting the light, there it goes. Mine's not having a light because mine's age 18 and it didn't have lights. So I'm going to have to fill that hole. So what I might do is see where the light is. G12 is here. Where is it? G12 is there. So what I might do is glue that light in now, and then I won't have very much work to do to fill it up. So what I'm going to do is cut this off of here now. Notice leaving sprue gate on the part. Don't ever cut right up to the part, especially with this Airfix plastic. And then you can cut up to the part afterwards. The difference is, when it's on the sprue, you're trying to force the sprue apart, because these are wedge shaped, so they're trying to cut in and they're forcing the sprue apart. Whereas when you do this, you just knock in the sprue that way. It's got no resistance whatsoever. So that's what makes it better. So this part here, I guess it doesn't matter for me which way it goes round. It faces that way. So right, I'm going to put some cement. Is that a sprue gate on the bottom of there or just an imperfection? I'm not sure. So I'm going to put some cement in the hole. And then this can go in there. Like that. Remember, all I want this for, guys, is filler, so I don't care about the angle of the light or anything. So we'll just get some cement in there, and then we'll leave that to dry for not a few months, a few days, and then that'll be okay to cut off and sound smooth. We'll put some super glue around there as well. That'll give us a filler. So that's all ready to go, because AJT didn't have lights. So we've got the actual main motor itself, so we're going to have to glue that together. So those parts are there. The border model Lancaster doesn't even come with this. I actually think the border model Lancaster, the Dambuster, I think the Dambuster parts, I think have been made by border model. I don't think wingnut wings, I don't think they got the wingnut wings tooling. I really don't, because it's like the position of the arms is wrong. Wingnut wings don't get things wrong like that. You know, it's perfectly obvious to any engineer that has anything to do with aircraft that bomb would be hanging off of brackets which are actually mounted onto the big raised support that runs down the side of the bomb bay on the outside of the aircraft. That's the backbone sort of thing. But border model don't have that, and also border model didn't tell you to use. Here's an example for beginners. We've got a pin in there which is locating the parts, but it's actually making the parts mislocate. See, this side is further forward than that side, so I'm going to pull this apart. I hope. Wedge something in there. Pull this apart, get rid of that pin, and then put it back together. There we go. And now we can align the parts properly. And that's my fault for chatting while I'm working, otherwise I would have test fitted it. Okay, so it's always worth looking out for, guys. Don't be, if you are new to the hobby, if parts go together and it should be like that and it's like that and the pins are pulling out of line, don't be frightened, just cut the pins off. You know, or it might just be one of them. Just cut the bloody things off so you can get the parts aligned. I'm going to grab another one of my clothes pegs. I'm having a coughing fit. Dear. Having a coughing fit. Anyway, there we are. So we'll leave that to dry as well. He says. There's no more halves to go together, are they? We've already got the bomb glued together. I'm just looking here at they're talking about cutting a slot in the nose. No, there's nothing there. That's right. I'm just going to leave that blank. Right. and then we're on to the turret. So building up that inside turret. The painting instructions here are incorrect. 33 is black for the inside of the turret. Nope. The nose turret was green and aluminium. The rear turret was black inside, but the front turret was green and aluminium. So there we go. Right. We got some stuff to allow drying, and then we can get on with the build. So I'll see you tomorrow in a minute. Okay, so a few hours later now, the rudders are all nice and dry, and the fins are nice and dry. I've noticed in here we have an ejector pin mark. You can see that in there. It's in the slot and it's sticking out. And I'm just going to have a look. I'm wondering if it's going to affect that fit. And the answer is possibly yes. So we're just going to get in there with a knife. I've got a radius knife here. And I just want to get in there and just try and sort of... I mean, this is the beauty of this soft plastic from Airfix. It's got its downsides, but the plus side is it's so easy when you have to do things like this. Try doing this on a Hasegawa kit. You'll have some fun getting that out of there. So we just scrape that away. There we go, and that should... I don't know if it's affected it at all, but anyway. So what we're going to do now, we're going to fit these rudders. The way I'm going to do this, I've got some metal blocks here. You can use anything, using book stops or whatever, bookends should I say. And what I want to do is glue this onto here and then just have it set square. So I'm going to get some Tamiya extra thin, and again from the underside, because I don't want it to be visible on top, and we need to be careful where our fingers are because of capillary action. Just get some cement into there. It won't need much. Okay, just get that on. Hopefully it will kind of stay in place. I need something to put under the tail here because it's actually sitting on the bottom of that rudder. Right, and then I'm going to do the same on this side, which is going to be easier said than done. How am I going to hold this? Well, that one is a very snug fit on there. It's like that tab is just too long. So what I'm going to do is just take remove some plastic from the length of that tab. I don't know if that's a common fault with all kits or if it's just the way I've put mine together. That's better. Right, so we'll leave that on there. It may fall off as soon as we put some glue on there, we shall see. Sanding stick down there, and then I get these metal blocks and push these into the fin without damaging those little weight counterbalance thingies. And what we're doing, we're just eyeing it up. I'm looking at it from this side. And making sure that the trailing edge is vertical. The problem with doing this is that the rudders are actually, the fins, I don't know if I can show you, but obviously they're not dead flat. They have a curvature to them, so we've got to make sure we get them lined up properly. So I'm just going to put these blocks in place so they hold it in position. Give them a little push and that will hold everything together. As I say, I'm just looking at it to make sure the trailing edge is vertical. Right, I think we're there. And then what we can do is just take a drop of extra thin and just run it around the top. Just like so. I'm not happy with this side. I've got a feeling it's... just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing really hard. Okay, I'm just going to leave those for 10 minutes just to gel, and then by that time the glue will have formed a sort of fairly hard gel, so we can just leave that there for now. This here, we've got the light. As you know, I'm doing AJT, it didn't have the lights, so you can cut that off of there, get some super glue into the gap, and then we'll sand that. I don't personally think the light was there anyway. Some think it was in the rear escape hatch where the ventral turret went. I think it was actually here. Okay, I've had a lot of conversations with Chris about it, and we've meandered over it time and time again, and I reckon the light was there. I think if the light was here, the bomb would have been in the way. It wouldn't have been able to see past the bomb, so I think the light was actually here. Anyway, enough on that one. I'm going to grab some super glue. I'm going to use my VMS, that's the ordinary black, I want the black thin. VMS black thin. And we're just going to put a drop on our Pringles lid, like so. So we've got that glue on there, and then we'll just put a drop in there. Trouble is with this build, guys, I've left it so long. It's now May, and I started it in January. I can't remember what I've actually shown you and what I haven't. I'm going to have to start putting the videos out there. So if I haven't shown you something and you want to know what it is, just ask in the comments below. So I'm going to leave that just to cure. I'm not going to use accelerator on it because that makes it shrink back faster. So we'll just leave that there to dry. We'll leave these here to gel off, and then I'll come back and show you how I'm going to get them all sorted. Okay, about 10 minutes has passed, so the glue will have gelled off. So all you've got to do now is just take the model, have a look at it end on, and make sure you're happy that everything is square and vertical. If you want to give it a little tweak, you can, because the glue is sort of like a resin now. So that's another beauty of this Airfix plastic. It does turn into a sort of proper malleable, gooey mess at the joint, if you like. So there we go. So that's all good. Everything's nice and vertical, so we can just leave that to dry. Alright, well, we've got some super glue out. Not that it really matters. We've got this little hydraulic motor that drives the pulley that spins the bomb. We've got some seams in there which are quite unsightly. Not that it really matters because you're not going to see them in the built model, but we may as well deal with them, aren't we? Because that's what we do. That's why we do modelling. It's because we enjoy doing stuff like this. So I'm just going to hold that in that peg, and then we've got a big seam underneath. As I say, you know, it's not going to be seen, but if you are a newbie, it's good practice. It's good to practice on stuff that's not going to be seen, and then when you work on the stuff that will be seen, you will make a very nice job of it because you're well rehearsed. If you remember, we did this on the bomb's all good, so that's all dealt with and primed and everything, so we've got that's all seamless now. We've got our wheels here. We've got a Bismarck moulding there, which I've still not finished. We've got our tail parts there. We've got the blanking panel. Well, that's the end of the bomb, sorry. And we've also got our tail wheel to do. Now, if you remember, back in the back of Beyond, we put a plastic strip in here because the tail wheel is the double wheel shimmy type, which is not correct for this period of Lancaster. So what we need to do now is basically sand this to make it flat, and then we're just going to put a radius on the edge. So the best way to do that is to take a Sharpie. Let's get this glue out of the way. What I'm going to do is take a Sharpie and just go around and colour the edge of the tyre in. And this is just to make sure the wheel is actually round. Okay, and then take a sanding stick. This is just a 400 grit Infinity, and going at 45 degrees across the wheel, I'm just going to sand until I see the grey plastic coming through. So that means I've sanded away the white strip in the middle, so it's down flush with the grey. Okay, this doesn't need to be perfect. As long as it's somewhere near, it'll be absolutely fine, because we're going to put a great big radius on it. Okay, you can see I'm sanding away there so that the white plastic is being sanded, and then as soon as it touches the grey I stop. And this, guys, is how to make your incorrect tail wheel correct for your Lancaster, and this applies to all the Airfix Lancasters, I believe. I'm surprised they don't give you an early and late tyre. I was very surprised they got those aluminium elevators as well, because that's a pretty common mistake actually. The Hong Kong models kit is the same. Okay, so there we go. Now we may be able to mount this up in a tool or something, or you can just do it by hand. But what we want to do now is just take away and radius the tyre. I'm not sure if we better mount this in a tool. I don't think we will. Will that fit in there? Yes, it will. So what I'm going to do is cut this off. Push it onto there really hard. I've got this little tool that comes from Amazon. It's called a Galax Pro. And then with my sanding stick I'm just going to put a radius and just turn the tyre into a kind of almost like a motorcycle rear tyre, if you like. Once it's all painted up and everything, it's going to look absolutely fine. It doesn't need to be perfect. Get the other side done. I'm going to grab a coarser stick, because with a finer stick you tend to generate heat. Whereas with a coarser stick it will tend to just cut the plastic and not generate so much heat. Don't push too hard. As I say, you will generate heat. And that's the last thing you want to do. And as I say, this applies to all anybody doing a Lancaster that's sort of late 43, I think. Don't count me on that on the dates, you have to check your references, but it wasn't really until 44 they started to use the anti-shimmy tyre, which was the double tyre. I'm surprised. As I say, I'm surprised that Airfix don't give you the option to have the earlier tail wheel. It really is quite a rounded section. And there we go, just give it a quick final stand with the 400. And you can see now we've got a round section tyre rather than the incorrect double shimmy. So double anti-shimmy, should I say. That'll look great with a coat of primer on it. That'll look lovely. Something I am going to do, purely because we've got some here, I'm going to put some super glue around it, because you can see there we've got black ink showing, so there may be some little gaps in there. So what we can do is just do that, let it dry, and then get it back in that little motor tool and sand it again. Okay. So yeah, that took a while to do, because we actually, in real time, I did that about 3 months ago, I think. But there we go. So I'm going to grab another peg, grab one of these pegs. I'm going to hold that in there, just like so. And then just let that dry, and then we'll get it back in the motor tool and sand it again. So I'm going to call that a day because we've got everything now. We've got drying. Everything is drying. As you know, I built up this one propeller. What I may well do is do the others off camera, and then I can sand that joint. Now in reality, the Lancaster had a line around there, so don't worry about filling that. But what we can do is get something like this is a UMP sander and just come in and just sand away, just to kind of get a nice even finish on there. I think on this model the back plate is slightly larger in diameter than the spinner, so we can just blend it in just to get a nice look to it. And these are going to be painted flat black anyway, so flat black hides some sins. Not all of them, but some. That can go in there like that. There's lovely. Okay, so I'll probably do that off camera, get the rest of those made up, and then when I come back for part 12, we're going to concentrate on all this gear on getting the Dambuster bomb all fitted. So we'll fit this panel, we'll fit the motor, and then we'll fit the actual cradle with the drives and everything, and then we'll fit these. They're all painted inside, ready to go. And then fit the drive pulley. And they don't actually ask us to fit the bomb until here you have the option of having the bomb on the trolley or the bomb on the aircraft. I'll probably just put it on the aircraft. We've got this decal here which is going on. I'm not sure about that's accuracy or what, I don't know. But I have actually got a spare bomb. So we could actually have a bomb on the aircraft and a bomb on the trolley. But we don't have a tractor to pull the trolley. So whatever. Right. See you for part 12. Thank you for watching. And hope you've learned something from today's video. And it's all been bits and pieces really, rather than sort of major assemblies, which the previous videos have been. But I will see you all soon for part 12. And she's really come together now and getting ready for paint. Bye.